Absolutely. All right, fellas, let's move on to the team in the number 2 spot. Of course, we were bang on about these next 2 teams that we're going to talk about in terms of, being high up in this division, being contenders and that sort of thing. The Colorado Avalanche, 7-3. 7-3-0 in their last 10, and may have the best player on the planet right now, and that is Nathan MacKinnon. 77 points in 47 games. Like, this is really the year where he's, breaking out, I guess you could say. Like, he's going to have well over 100 points, and we've been kind of waiting, I think, for this offensive production from Nathan MacKinnon, and he's got to be the favorite for the Hart Trophy right now. So anyway, let's talk about Colorado and the sum of their parts, and second in this division currently, just a point behind the Winnipeg Jets, as a matter of fact. So they could certainly end up at the top of this division when it's all said and done.
Yeah, we talked and say, we didn't expect Winnipeg to be up there and that we were off on our projections for that. But realistically, the top 3 teams in this division could shuffle around for the rest of the season. And we don't know who's going to be 1, 2, or 3. The rest of the division, I don't care. Like, they're not even close. So the top 3, they're going to be fighting it out.
And might not be playoff teams either, Case. That's something to consider too.
Oh, I fully was going to say later on in this episode that I think the Pacific has both the wild cards. So yeah,
fair enough.
It's not the case right now, but I that's how I see it playing out. Now, Nathan MacKinnon, they needed him to step up big in the way he has, because this team has elected to go the route of scoring more goals than their opponents. They are not playing like Winnipeg. They've allowed the 8th most goals against in the entire league, but they've scored the 3rd most goals. And a lot of that has to do with the top dogs of this team, specifically MacKinnon, who has just been outer planetary. He's been phenomenal, but you got to give out some shout outs to some of the guys in the depth category, because Drouin has been a delight on Colorado. Ross Colton has come over and seen more favorable ice time, kind of like we talked about in the preseason rankings, and he's been excellent. And a guy like Logan O'Connor has been contributing way more than expected. So you're getting goals up and down the lineup, and the top dogs are producing. The defense can certainly be better. And the goaltending has been mediocre. So I guess they're going to just keep scoring more, and it's working. So I guess don't change it.
Yeah, and I don't have too much to add on this because, like you guys both mentioned, we were pretty much bang on in Colorado. I mean, we did pick them to finish second, and they are in second. We just didn't have Winnipeg in first. We had Dallas in first. So it's pretty close. So, but we were bang on in Colorado in the number 2 spot. So I don't have much to add. What I'll say is, to quote Sheldon Keefe, when those guys are going, the top guys like MacKinnon and Makar, that's not the NHL. That's a whole different league. I don't know exactly what Keefe was getting at when he was saying that. I think he was trying to say they're very good, but it was phrased very oddly. But yeah, it's been clear this year that those guys are really, really, really damn good. And this team is going to go as far as their stars can take them. Now, there've been some rumblings that perhaps they're getting their captain back for the playoffs. We don't know exactly how true that is, but the guy's skating right now. And, last year in the playoffs, this team was stunned by Seattle. So this year they are going to be, it's cup or bust. Like, this is a team who can compete for the cup. They're going to add at the deadline. It's cup or bust, really. So I'm not surprised that they're sitting in second place in their division, just 1 point behind first.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, not much else for me to add about Colorado. Obviously, sucks to lose Val Nichushkin into the player assistance program, and of course, he left the team early in the first round of the playoffs in that series against Seattle, and we really didn't get a lot of clarity on what exactly happened there. But anyway, he's away from the team, and it's too bad because he's locked up long term, and he was having a great season as well. So they're really going to miss him. We'll wait and see about Landeskog. Case, you mentioned a few guys there in Colton, Drouin, who I'm really happy for, and Logan O'Connor, as well as some nice depth players. But they definitely want to add some more depth to this forward group, I think. You look at that second line center position in particular, and Ryan Johansson just has not done the job since coming over at a reduced cap hit from Nashville. So, there have been rumblings that Colorado could make a big splash and maybe be a suitor for Elias Lindholm. We'll have to see. I would also throw a name like Sean Monahan in there too. And then the other hole that I'm looking at for this team is the goaltending behind Georgiev, because I think that Georgiev has played a ton of games. He's stretched a little thin, and it's something that Chris McFarland, the GM, actually brought up in an interview with Frank Saravalli, that ideally 55 games is kind of the number that he'd like for Georgiev, I believe is what he said, but he's projected to go way over that. And you've had Francouz, who's been banged up, a Noonan or Annanen, again, hasn't really done the job, and Prosvetov, who was a waiver claim from the Yotes, hasn't really done the job either. So I would think they look for a goaltender and try to solidify that second line center position. You can move down Johansson. Colton is perfect in that 3C spot, just like he was with the Tampa Bay Lightning. But other than that, guys, I mean, they could certainly win the cup again. Their second one in 3 years. The Colorado Avalanche, certainly contenders once again.
Yeah, especially if they do some IR cap manipulating with Landeskog, like every team that's won the cup in the last 6 years, then they're definitely looking good.
Yeah, when we found out that he was skating again, that's the first thing I thought of. Here we go, and you have Nikita Kucherov's voice in your head just saying 10 million over the cap, or what was it, 18 million over the cap? Was that what it was?
I
that he said
exactly what it was.
Shirtless with Bud Lights, and anyway, but we'll have to see there. It would be great to see Landeskog back though, because he's a hell of a player and a big part of this team. All right, number 3 in this division. We mentioned them a few minutes ago. We were pretty much bang on about the Dallas Stars. Certainly a contender, 60 points on the season so far. They're 5-3-2 in their last 10. I know that there's one particular player that's going to get brought up in this. He's a former Av who has fit in perfectly with this team, and we'll certainly get to him. But what do we think about the Dallas Stars right now, guys?
Well, I think we're getting exactly what we were expecting out of them, and that's goals. This team is scoring at will, and it's coming from exactly who we expect it to come from. Maybe we weren't expecting Matt Duchene, who I think is what Harper was talking about, to be almost a point per game player. But, Hintz and Heiskanen and Robertson, like all of the guys you expect to be scoring on this team, including Pavelski and Ben and all the top dogs, they are producing. Wyatt Johnson, who I said is better than every player on Nashville except for Forsberg. And I'll stand by that, except maybe Ryan O'Reilly now added into the mix. But this team is scoring, and I think the only thing that's holding them out of the second spot in this division is they are not getting the all-star goaltending that they've come to expect out of Ottinger. He's been kind of league average at this point, and Wedgwood has kind of drifted back from what he put up last year. So the goaltending hasn't quite been there for this team, but man, has the scoring ever been there.
Yeah, and that was something I was going to bring up too, Case. It's just the goaltending. You can never, it's hard in today's NHL to put too much stock into goaltending, no matter how good some of these guys are, because it's the position where you get the smallest sample size of games, and it's hard to evaluate. So, Ottinger, he's still a really good goalie. He's been about average, which, if you're Dallas to this point in the season, it's been good enough because, you're sitting in a playoff spot very comfortably and you're not worried about it. You just have to hope he gets hot during the playoffs. This is another team who, the regular season, isn't much of a trouble for them with their current roster. It's going to come down to the playoffs, and we've talked about them being built for it. So this is pretty much where we thought Dallas was going to be. Their stars are going. Duchene's been better than Johansson, which is something that I remember us talking about. Who got the better former Pred in the offseason, the Avalanche or the Stars. And that's why actually one of the reasons why we picked the Stars to finish first. But this team is pretty good. They're sitting 4 points out of first place right now, and it's pretty much right where we had them. So I don't really have too much to add. I feel like that's becoming a theme, but it just kind of is what it is.
Yeah, exactly.
My 3 bets, 2 of my 3 bets I made before the season started on Cup winners. I threw a couple flyers out there. 2 of them are still alive in Dallas and Vancouver. My third one I made was a little bit more of like, well, they have ridiculous odds. So like if it hits, it's going to be great. And I thought of any team that's just going to bullshit their way into a cup, it would be the Calgary Flames. That one's looking a little less good, but my Dallas and Vancouver bets are still alive.
Calgary might still make the playoffs, man. Like
they might be the second wild card.
They're not out of it. And we don't know what they're going to do at the deadline. I mean, they're probably not going to buy, but like they might not sell either. Who knows?
Might do a little bit of both. Might be like Nashville from last year. I think I said that last week.
Yeah, if you want to be mid forever, just do that.
Yeah, exactly. But anyway, just really quick on Dallas. I don't have much more to add either. But I think that you'd probably want to extend Duchene. Dollars and term are going to be tricky, but he's fit like a glove with this team. He's been a really nice addition. Not only the top dogs, but a lot of good young players in this lineup and coming too. Like this is just a really well-run organization, as we've talked about before. I still think they could add a little bit on their back end. I just don't know if there's enough there depth-wise. We know that Heiskanen, as great as he's been, he has missed a handful of games due to injury, and he is expected back between Thursday to Saturday, I read before we jumped on here. So it'll be great to get him back in. A guy like Thomas Harley continues to elevate his game. They need to get Ottinger back and going. And look, even though Wedgwood has an 899 save percentage, I think he's been good enough. In
the early part of the year, he was fantastic.
Yeah, exactly. And
league average these days is like what, 904, 903. So
yeah, something like that. And there's another a goaltender that we consider elite in this division that we're going to talk about here next. That is kind of having an up and down year as well. So. Yeah, but not much more to say about Dallas. They're scoring at will. I think they could add a little bit on the back end. I think that's something that Jim Nill is looking to do. Get that elite goaltending from Jake Ottinger. Certainly Wedgwood can be better as well. And yeah, this team is going to be a contender.